What's in the cup? It's pink lemonade. What's good, guys? We are back at it again with UFC Vegas. Or I don't know if it's going to be in Vegas because who knows what's going on. Maybe it's in the T-Mobile Arena. Let me know. But the newly updated full card predictions for UFC Vegas 311. But we can't talk about UFC 311 without talking about Saturday. UFC Vegas 101, the first card to come back of 2025. Absolute banger. Obviously, this card was not the best to be playing on. Obviously, lock of the week hit, but I have to mention, guys, only one of the bonuses hit. The 6 best bets, I got 4 of them wrong. And when we look at this, guys, I ended up getting 6 picks wrong. And I believe 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 picks right. So I ended up going 8 and 6. 8 and 6 is atrocious. UFC 311, we have to get a way better sweep. We will get a way better sweep. This is absolutely atrocious, absolutely hideous. So let's break it down. Magomedov ended up getting messed up in the clinch. Cagliari, pretty good fight, 1-1. Ended up losing the third round, fair play. But I did not know Cagliari was a better fighter than Gadzulov. Gadzulov, whatever you're doing, just quit the UFC, my guy. Johnson versus Boons. We know that he missed weight. And Boonez ended up finding that submission. Beautiful submission. Bashi Rodriguez, damn, that was one of my most exciting fights, dude. I woke up the next day and I was like, damn, Bashi. Like, damn, that was a fucking good-ass fucking fight. We know C-Rod was sticking the middle finger at Jacob from We Want Picks. That was actually pretty funny. So, that was actually pretty cool. Uros Medic, 30 seconds. I'm over here talking about the grappling of Soriano, and this guy knocked Uros Medic out in 30 seconds. Roman Kopylov, obviously, we know the same guy who gave the belt to Aljamain Sterling from a DQ. The only referee is the one who stops it when there's 1 second left. W referee, let's go. One of the best referees. Obviously, we all would love to see that referee get fired. And then Dern versus Ribas. We know Mackenzie Dern was actually able to just implement her game. Her grappling is now way better. Her takedown accuracy is now way better. So, she ended up beating my baby girl Ribas. So, it happens. Let's go. Ponzinibbio is a fucking demon. Let's go. UFC 311, Makhachev versus Tsarukyan. A bunch of banger fights. Issa Makhachev, Armin Tsarukyan, Merab Dvalishvili, Umar Nurmagomedov, Yuri Prochazka, Jamal Hill. My most anticipated matchup on this entire card. Kevin Holland versus Reinier de Ridder. / DDP versus Kevin Holland type fight. Bogdan Guskov has a new opponent. Johnny Walker's out due to injury. Billy Elekana is his new opponent, making his UFC debut. So, making your UFC debut on UFC 311 is an absolute banger. Payton Talbott. I like Payton Talbott's celebration. Jailton, Almeida, Serghei, Spivac, Zach, Reese, Sedriques, Dumas. We're going to go over Ailín, Pérez. What, is this the only girl fight on the entire card? Guys, shout out to all the love that you guys gave me on the super early UFC 311 prediction video. You guys gave me an insane amount of love to the point where I'm going to be dropping like crazy. So, thank you guys for everything that you guys gave me. Let's get into it. Let's go. Tagir Ulanbekov versus Clayton Carpenter. When I first broke this down a month ago, minus 230 for Tagir Ulanbekov. Clayton Carpenter was a plus 190. And now, the same week of the fight, Tagir Ulanbekov is a minus 290, and Clayton Carpenter is a plus 215. We know Tagir's bread and butter is dominant wrestling. All 4 wins in the UFC, 12 takedowns, 2 subs. Tagir was seen training with Mighty Mouse and looked huge next to him, and the scrambling was absolutely amazing. Tagir was scheduled to fight Joshua Van, but that fight got canceled. With this matchup, Clayton is only 28 years old, really good grappler, cardio king, always looks to wrestle. His most recent win is over Lucas Racha. Beautiful wrestling, but no striking. He hasn't really implemented his striking game as much, but it should level up after this UFC debut. Tagir's a vet, a true vet, taking on an uppercomer, Clayton Carpenter. Tagir's a hard wrestler. We saw him training with Mighty Mouse, obviously. Khabib, that entire camp is going to be absolutely OP, overpowered. Khabib in your corner is overpowered. We know Clayton Carpenter is 8-0. He is successful in the wrestling department. I do expect this to be an absolute wrestling clinic, but I do got to go with my boy Tagir Ulanbekov. Majority Topology favors this fight to go the distance. We have to mention, though, Tagir's takedown defense is a little terrible. Tim Elliott showed us he was scheduled to fight Joshua Van, and who knows how that matchup would have went. You know, maybe with that matchup we would have gotten a little bit more information that we needed to see, But from what I know, I'm going to be taking my boy Tagir Ulanbekov. I think he should be able to win this fight. Khabib's in his corner. That's number one. That's the number one factor that I take into consideration. Who's in the corner? If I hear Khabib Nurmagomedov, we know he just got kicked out the plane. So we know that guy is going through a lot this week. And that guy has been putting these guys through absolute hell in order for them to compete and have the successful wins on UFC 311. So give me Tagir Ulanbekov, and I'll take Tagir Ulanbekov to win this fight by unanimous decision. If you guys saw the super early predictions, and you jumped on Tagir or jumped on some of these plays, there was some benefit to that because these odds have been juiced. Biggest favorite, minus 1,100. Just a month ago, these odds were reduced by a lot. Now, the week of the fight, the odds are absolutely atrocious. Give me Tagir Ulanbekov to win this fight by unanimous decision. Let's go. And I like the bout order. I like how they rescheduled the bout order, and it looks way more better. We know Payton Talbott is... The way they put this guy, Payton Talbott, they're expecting him to perform like an absolute demon. Ricky Turcios versus Benardo Sopaj. So, earlier when I broke this down, Ricky Turcios was a plus 240. Benardo Sopaj was minus 298. Now, Benardo Sopaj is a minus 330. And Ricky Turcios plus 240. He didn't move as a dog. Money's coming in on Benardo Sopaj. This fight was supposed to happen at UFC Vegas 100 a few months back, but it was canceled. The more time Sopaj has between his last fight is better, in my opinion. We know Ricky's volume is push, but his accuracy is terrible, but has volume on top of volume on top of volume. Just recently lost to Raul by sub. Sopaj is a victim of one of the worst KOs of 2024. But the best thing about hitting rock bottom is that there's only one way to go, and that's up. Sopaj needs to maintain his cardio and not get overwhelmed by Ricky's volume. I expect Sopaj to have better cardio and win by unanimous decision. He could find a sub, but he's very new to the UFC. We mentioned this before. We mentioned this last week. Shout out to Jacoby Smith. That guy is an absolute demon. When you're making your UFC debut, sometimes you get jitters, you get the first round jitters. You gotta let loose, and you gotta just relax. Some people are not capable of relaxing, and they're too jittery. You know, we seen it yesterday, all day yesterday. A lot of these people are jittery making their UFC debut. We know nobody's making their UFC debut here no more. Benardo Sopaj's pressure is already out the window. The pressure is not as big as it was the first time making the UFC debut. Now they're facing a guy like Ricky Turcios, who you're slowly studying. There's a little bit more time in between fights. You know, that KO was almost 7 months ago. Now it's around 10 months ago. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, around 10 months ago. And that was by flying knee. That was a vicious KO. So the more time that we have in between fights, the better it is for him. And I believe the better he will perform. I think he's going to have a better performance than he would have had on UFC Vegas 100. Who's to say, you know, everything happens for a reason. Who's to say, you know, this fight could have backfired on him if he returned too early. So give me Benardo Sopaj to win this fight by unanimous decision. Obviously, Ricky always comes forward. In half of his UFC fights, he lands over 100 significant strikes. But that doesn't matter to me because he lands like, 50% of that? And he just throws just to overwhelm his opponent. Obviously, Sopaj has a cardio issue. I expect his cardio to be on point, and he needs to maintain that cardio. If he's not maintaining that cardio, Ricky's volume will overwhelm Benardo Sopaj. Give me Benardo Sopaj to win this fight and have a successful first win in the UFC. Let's go. I'll go by 29-28 unanimous decision. Majority Tapology seems like maybe he can find a KO. Maybe a ground and pound KO. We'll see. I can't wait. Come on, Sopaj. Clutch up. Rinya Nakamura versus Muin Gafurov. Guys, pay attention to the 6 best bets. That's all I'm going to say this Wednesday. When I first broke this down, Rinya Nakamura was a minus 345. Muin Gafurov was a plus 275. Now, Rinya Nakamura is a minus 480. Muin Gafurov is a plus 330. Within a month, this guy went from a minus 345 to a minus 480. So just that being said alone shows you guys that if you were on it early, you could benefit a little bit more from being on this early. But that doesn't matter because we're going to break this down. Japanese prospects scream free money. We know what we get with Rinya. Amazing grappling, real wrestling, real grappling on top of grappling, and amazing control. Mixed with explosive power, 9 wins, 6 stoppages. His most recent win is over Carlos Vera. Gafurov is a guy who is very well-rounded, not the best IQ, but very fundamentally sound. He beat Kong Ho Kong, but prior to that, he lost to Said Nurmagomedov and John Castaneda. I'll take Rinya Nakamura for the win, but I expect this to be a very high pace, very high volume, and very high striking pace. I expect this to be an absolute war for 15 minutes. We know Rinya Nakamura has good control. Almost reminds me of a guy like Taisu Taira. But you know, a lot of these guys are very different. Just because they're from the same region doesn't mean that they're going to have the same implementations or style. I do like Rinya Nakamura. I like his control. And one thing I like is his submission defense. When a lot of people are throwing submissions on him, he's able to stay in there and he's able to maintain control. And he's able to prevent them from getting up. We know Gafurov is a guy who's going to come forward. He's going to try to wrestle as well. But he's also going to try to strike. Honestly, I expect Rinya Nakamura to win this fight, and I'll go by unanimous decision, but I do like by KO on points because we know anything can happen. We saw Roman Kopylov versus Chris Curtis end with 1 second left, so if you had KO on points, it hits. But if you didn't and you just had Roman Kopylov by points, it doesn't hit. So you never know, guys. I like the double chance. I always love the double chance. I like Rinya Nakamura by KO or on points. It might be like a minus 330 or minus 400. But I think Rinya Nakamura is parlayable. So give me Rinya Nakamura for the win. I'll go by 29-28, 30-27, 29-28, unanimous decision. Ailín Pérez versus Carol Rosa. Carol Rosa a month ago was minus 162. Now she's minus 210. Ailín Pérez a month ago was a plus 136. Now she's a plus 162. Seems like the money is coming in heavy on Carol Rosa. Carol Rosa has volume on her side. A decision merchant with 12 takedowns in 10 UFC fights. 68% takedown defense, which will be tested in this fight. Now she's taking on a professional twerker, OnlyFans queen, Ailín Pérez. Grapple. She needs wrestling. Without a takedown here, she might be in massive trouble. Cardio can sometimes fail her, but once she's on top, she maintains control and looks for the sub. Her most recent fight, she missed weight and smoked Daria. We know that she tried to say that she was kind of faking it on the scale, but it was a pretty tough cut in my opinion, but she still prevailed. Carol Rosa has grown as a massive favorite. The money is on Rosa. Seems like many of the bookies think Rosa is a level above Ailín Pérez, but one takedown is all Ailín needs. Plus 3.5 for Pérez is great. Obviously, we know, I think this fight's going to go the distance, over 2.5. Will this fight go the distance? Yes, I think that's going to be good, but it's going to be juiced. Her having 12 takedowns within 10 fights is actually absolutely amazing. And we know her takedown defense is actually on point. If Ailín can wrestle, she can get this job done. But is she going to be able to implement her takedowns? We know she's an absolute brute force. She did get submitted by Stephanie Edgar, her most recent loss. And Carol Rosa lost to Norma Dumont, who's an absolute demon. And Irene Aldana. This is by far one of my most toughest picks. One of the most toughest picks to make because I like Carol Rosa. I like the way that she chopped up Penny Khanzad's legs. This girl's an absolute demon. She's 5'5" to 5'5", 67-inch, Reese 66. Maybe the jab might work a little bit well for her. I'll go Carol Rosa, and I'll go Carol Rosa to win this fight. Nah, I'm not. I'm going to go Pérez. I'll go Ailín Pérez, and I'll go her to win this fight by unanimous decision. I think this is going to be an official pick flip, guys. I don't know. I gotta see the scales. I have to see this fight on the scales. I have to see if Ailín Pérez misses weight. If she misses weight, I'm actually going to be more confident in her because the fact that she was actually able to finish her opponent when she missed weight showed that she actually ended up rehydrating a little bit faster. So I'll go Ailín Pérez to win this fight by unanimous decision, 29-28, but she is going to have a hell of a first round. I expect her legs to get chopped up the entire first round, her struggle to get a takedown, and then the second and third she gets a takedown and is able to win this fight by unanimous decision by winning 2 out of 3 rounds. Grant Dawson versus Diego Ferreira. One of the most boring fighters on the entire card. Minus 340, Grant Dawson versus Diego Ferreira. Plus 250. Most boring fighter on the roster, Grant Baby Chin Dawson. Averages around 4 takedowns per fight. His bread and butter is relentless pressure. Decent on the feet, but got KO'd by Bobby Green flat out. He needs to grapple hard and heavy to win this. He's coming off of that ground and pound win over Rafa Garcia. Now taking on Diego Ferreira, an absolute BJJ machine with hands of stone. Grappler at heart, but solid striking, low takedown accuracy at 30%. He should be the better striker. His takedown defense is 60%, though. He is always fighting a wrestler, Beneil Dariush, Gregor Gillespie, Gamrot, coming off of that dogfight win over Mateusz Rebecki, where he was dropped, taken down over and over, but never stopped. Pick your poison. Diego inside the distance or Grant Dawson by KO or decision. If Grant Dawson can't wrestle, he will lose very badly, in my opinion. Diego was taken down 4 times, but has a very decent get-up game. I think Dawson should be able to fit this price tag, but if he gets dropped, it's most likely over. His recovery is not there at all. I've never seen Dawson get hurt and then still win that fight. Usually when he gets hit, he's done. So the chin is a massive factor. Diego Ferreira inside the distance / no action is a good... I like that. Diego Ferreira inside the distance or no action. We know Diego Ferreira is an absolute demon. If you just look at the way he KO'd Michael Johnson, and look at the fight with Mateusz Rebecki. This guy is a guy who's going to fight for your money. He's going to fight for your price tag. I like Diego Ferreira by inside the distance / no action. And then I'll take Grant Dawson by unanimous decision. Obviously, we know the ground and pound is a factor. He got his one of his first finishes, ground and pound over Rafa Garcia. I'll go Grant Dawson to win this fight by unanimous decision, 29-28. And 29-28, let's go on our judges' scorecards, 29-28 after losing the first round. I hope Dawson has trained his recovery and his defense because sometimes when he's cold, like it can happen to anybody. It's happened to Zach Reese too. When you're cold or when you're not hot, when you enter the octagon and you're not hot, like your feet are cold, the first 30 seconds are where you could get caught the most. You know, the first 30 seconds compared to the last 30 seconds of every round are a little bit more, you know, the feints and all that, like your cold feet, you got to warm up, you got to get into your element, you got to get into the zone. So I'll go Grant Dawson to win this fight by unanimous decision. Let's go, my guy, let's go. Zach Reese versus Sedriques Dumas. And I know I kind of talk a lot of shit about Grant Dawson, but he's good. He's a moneymaker. Zach Reese versus Sedriques Dumas. Zach Reese was a -180, and Sedriques Dumas was a +150. Now, Zach Reese is a -295. Sedriques Dumas is a +220. This is what I was talking about. Massive favorites on this card. Zach Reese, the moneymaker, a guy who can fight for your money. 6'4", a beast, very well rounded, he has hands made out of stone. Can wrestle on the ground. He's a BJJ expert from the top or bottom. Sometimes he hangs out too much on the bottom. His most recent win is over Jose Medina. His one loss is to Cody Bumditch after he kept on holding the triangle when Cody lifted him and slammed him to get out of the sub. Sedriques Dumas doesn't brawl, and he's very technical, always improving. Has a lot of potential, a very well-rounded and very solid chin. But his chin will be tested here. His most recent win is over Dennis Tillulin, where his grappling looked questionable in the cage, and he is not that dangerous, but is always getting better, very tough, resilience. Zach for the win. I'll take Zach by KO or submission. I'll take Zach by KO on points, just in case this gets sloppy and Dumas is tougher than we expect. But he could get a sub. I'll jump on Zach Reese now. That's what I wrote a month ago. Obviously, when we look at this fight now, Zach Reese is a massively favored to finish this fight inside the distance. What's it going to be, a KO or submission? Maybe a club and sub? But remember, Sedriques Dumas is tough as nails, and he has won the decision before. We can say he beat Cody Bumditch. Zach Reese lost to Cody Bumditch. MMA math doesn't always work, but that's actually pretty funny. Cody Bumditch. I'll go Zachary Reese, and I'll go Zachary Reese by KO or submission, and I'll go second round finish. Honestly, I think this is going to be an absolute barn burner. We know the 79-inch Reese, 6'2". This guy's ape index is absolutely insane. Sedriques Dumas is 6'2", and has a longer reach than Zach Reese. So give me Sedriques Dumas to win this fight. Let's go, my guy. Let's go. Jailton Almeida versus Serghei Spivac. Another banger fight. Jailton Almeida a month ago was a -250, and Serghei Spivac was a +205. Now, Jailton Almeida is a -400, and Serghei Spivac is a +285. My bad, guys. It's getting hot. So, Jailton Almeida with this fight has a tough test on his hands. Savage versus Savage. Both of these guys come forward and wrestle. Almeida just lost to Curtis Blades. Well, not recently, but his most recent losses to Curtis Blades because of his telegraph takedowns, but just destroyed Alexander Romanov, which is his most recent win. 6'3" Brazilian beast, explosive, no striking at all, only been to decision once, and that was against Derek Lewis. His speed and his strength, all tied up tougher, makes him a all tied up together, makes him a relentless finisher. He just finished Alexander Romanov, where one takedown in 3 minutes, he got it done. Matched up against Serghei Spivac, heavyweight grappler, very good subs, bread and butter is grappling, and sometimes he can't maintain top control, but it's coming off of that first round sub win over Marcin Tybura. Jailton Almeida is one of my best parlay pieces in my opinion, but we know this guy doesn't have the best fight IQ. Almeida by sub or KO inside the distance for me, but if you don't like that, you could take Almeida by decision or KO. I think Almeida shoots first and gets it done. This is going to be a grappler versus grappler fight. Let's see how good Polar Bear's takedown defense is. He lands 2.46 strikes, gets hit with less than one because he's always shooting for a takedown. Almeida for the win, parlayable. I like Almeida, and I like Almeida and Rinya Nakamura. Nice little two-leg parlay. Let's go. Give me Jailton Almeida to win this fight by KO or submission. I'll go submission, third round submission. I'll go late third round submission. Let's go. My most anticipated fight. One of my most anticipated fights, guys. When Payton Talbott, look at his celebration. When he does that thing with his celebration, I like that's a cool ass celebration. Payton Talbott minus 1,100 versus Raoni Barcelos plus 600. Talbott's biggest test. Look at how high Talbott is on the card. They know what they're doing. Talbott equals aura, equals real prospect, equals all the potential. 37-year-old bantamweight Raoni Barcelos just beat Christian Cayones. Correct me if my pronunciation. Christian Cayones. Correct me if my pronunciation is wrong, or if there's anything you want me to correct me on. But Talbott, on the other hand, the UFC wants this guy to be a star. He's flashy. He's fluid. His stance, his stance, and his striking department is very, very flashy. What I wanted, this is what I wrote a month ago. I hope he puts on a Manel Cape type performance. And that was an absolute beautiful performance from Manel Cape. I do think, though, their styles, now looking at that, their styles are completely different. Payton Talbott has a very good 1-2, very good accuracy, very good get-up game. He has been out-grappled, but he gets better every fight. Coming off of that super quick KO win over Yanis Gamori, now taking on Raoni Barcelos, a guy who Father Time may be his only and own demise. Good striker, good low kicks, good pace. He's a 5-time Brazilian national champion, averages around 2 takedowns per fight, and he has an 85% takedown defense. Very well-rounded, and he is going to be Payton Talbott's toughest test. If Raoni Barcelos can wrestle, he can take a round off of Talbott. Maybe the plus 3.5. We know this guy's a massive favorite, so we're just trying to find juice. UFC knows how to build up their prospects. Payton by KO or inside the distance. I'm going to be taking Payton Talbott by KO. Sorry, guys, my ear itches. I'm going to be taking Payton Talbott. I'll go Payton Talbott by KO. Honestly, this is going to be an absolute banger fight, and I'll go by KO. I'll go round 2 KO. Let's go. Majority tap volley. Damn. 98% are picking him, and 88% are picking him by KO. Shout out to the 2% that are picking Raoni. Let's go. Let's go, Talbot. Let's go. Bogdan Guskov versus Billy Elekana. This is going to be an absolute banger fight. I think this fight is not going the distance at all. Billy Elekana versus Bogdan Guskov. The odds are not out yet. If they're out yet, then correct me or comment them down. I'll probably pin your comment. Originally, Bogdan Guskov was supposed to face Johnny Walker. Unfortunately, Walker pulled out due to injury. But Bogdan Guskov is super underrated, super overlooked. Athlete, real power, keeps his hands low, good combos. If he can't KO you, he takes you down, strikes on top, good pot shots. His most recent win was by KO over Ryan Spann. Guskov is now matched up against Billy Elekana, who is making his UFC debut. He has competed in LFA, PFL, and LXF organizations. His most recent loss is to Daniel Compton by split decision, and his most recent win is a first-round KO in 1 minute and 58 seconds. He has 3 KOs in round 1 and 4 KOs in round 2, mixed with some decisions. This will be a fight that will be taking place majority on the feet, what I would believe, and I don't think this fight is going the distance. I imagine Guskov to be a massive favorite when the odds drop. Guskov is a good money line. Guskov for the win, but he might be a massive favorite by the time this fight is already by the time the odds are already out. We know Johnny Walker versus him was a pick'em. It was almost a pick'em, but now when we're looking at it, now it looks like Bogdan Guskov might be a massive favorite. I expect this fight not to go the distance. I might like how will this fight end by KO. When I look at Majority Tapology is favoring this fight to end by KO as well. I'll go Bogdan Guskov, and I'll go by first round KO. Let's go, my guy. Let's go. And shout out to these guys who step up on short notice. I know he's getting a UFC contract, but he's stepping up to the plate. This is an absolute banger fight. We're already on the main card. Kevin Holland versus Reinier de Ridder. By far one of my most anticipated fights. We know Majority Tapology has these odds at a pick'em, and let's get into it. When I broke this down the first time, Kevin Holland was a minus 125. Reinier de Ridder was a minus... Well, the odds weren't actually out yet, so these are the odds right now. Kevin Holland, minus 125. Reinier de Ridder, minus 102. My favorite fight on the entire card. My most anticipated fight on the entire card. Get ready for the most goofy, hilarious fight on this card. Kevin Holland, a good grappler, decent get-up game, but gets taken down way too much. Competitive with Khamzat, more competitive than Whitaker, in my opinion. Kevin Holland does better against strikers. Kevin Holland recently lost to Roman Dolidze, was taken down, broke his rib, and the fight ended. Now Kevin Holland is taking on Reinier de Ridder, former 2-division champion, 1FC grappling, is his bread and butter. And at 6'4", his striking is sloppy. He got dropped by GM3, Gerald Meerschaert. If he can't take you down, he loses. He lost both of his belts to the same guy. His most recent win is a sub over JM3, but he had to work for it, and that was an absolute sweat. Kevin Holland, takedown defense is terrible. Remember the days he lost to Brunson and Vettori? Never really improved since then. Reinier de Ridder should be able to impose his will. I just hope he doesn't get dropped by Holland. He was way too risky against Gerald Meerschaert. This is a 1-800-gambler type of fight. If Holland gets taken down, it's over. But Holland can drop RDR badly. But I'll stick with the grappler. I'm very high on RDR. We have to mention this guy's a double champ from 1FC. He actually mentioned how he didn't like that organization, and he's glad that he's in the UFC. And I like to see that. I like to see where your headspace is at. Kevin Holland is a guy who's win, lose, win, lose, lose, win, lose, win. And that's been his entire career, other than in 2020 when he had 5-fight win streak in 1 year, which was his prime in my opinion. And I wish we could have got to see Kevin Holland versus Darren Till. That would have been an absolute banger. I will say, though, this fight is... It screams violence. This fight is going to be so funny. When I saw JM3 get drop Reinier de Ridder, and I had Reinier de Ridder heavy, dude, my heart, I was like, what the fuck am I doing, bro? Reinier de Ridder, why are you getting dropped? And then I had the fight not to go the distance as well, so I'm like, come on, he has to work for it. And he's goofy. He looks like DDP. He's like throwing himself all over the place. His striking is so bad. A nice little, and he's done. If you're Kevin Holland, you should be practicing that 1-2 right down the middle, because if Gerald Meerschaert was able to drop a guy like RDR, Kevin Holland might finish this dude. Club and sub. We know this guy knocked out Jacare Souza off his back. But I think Kevin Holland's no longer in his prime. Maybe he is. Maybe he proves me wrong. 1-800-gambler type of fight. One of my most anticipated fights. Here we go. Reinier de Ridder for the win, and I'll go Reinier de Ridder by unanimous decision. I will say, it looks like this fight might not go the distance. Holland by KO. Reinier de Ridder by sub. It looks like this fight might not go the distance, but I think it's going to be an ugly, sloppy fight. I'll go Reinier de Ridder by submission or on points. And if he wins by unanimous decision, I wouldn't be surprised if it's even a split. I'll go Reinier de Ridder by 29-28 unanimous decision. Let's go. Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano. By far another banger fight. Beneil Dariush was a plus 195. Renato Moicano was a minus 230. Now, Beneil Dariush is a plus 168, and Renato Moicano is a minus 220. So it seems like the money's coming in on Beneil a lot. He's shrinking as a dog as we speak, and that's rightfully so. Beneil Beneil is in a bit of a tough skid in his career right now. Renato Moicano, who's on the rise, heavily favored against Dariush. Maybe if this was 5 years ago, it wouldn't be that way. But some can say and make the argument Dariush still has it. He lost to the number 2 and the number 3 guy ranked in his division, especially at lightweight. Dariush is a BJJ and no-gi world champion. He has won against Gamrot, has undeceiving power, and he's on a 2-fight skid, that being to Oliveira and Arman Tsarukyan. I remember when he pulled that against Islam, and people were saying he had a chance. So now when we see this fight, it's like, okay, now Beneil Dariush is old, everybody's going to be doubting him, and everybody's going to be heavy on Money Moicano. But when does Moicano win as a favorite? He's the type of guy who's always going to win as an underdog, and then when it's time for him to get a favorable matchup, he loses. Obviously, he stepped in on short notice against RDA, and he got rocked in the 5th round. But we're going to continue to break this fight down. Moicano has a win over Drew Dober, and that was absolutely insane. Seems like he always survives and always prevails. Drew Dober dropped him bad. I believe Moicano has no power, kind of, and a questionable chin. But he can definitely eat a punch. Averages almost 2 takedowns per fight. Has some good clinches and body locks. Most recent bout, he beat BSD, Benoit Saint-Denis, in Paris. His opponent in his own hometown crowd, and upset the Frenchman. The way Moicano was able to catch that body kick, turn that body kick into a takedown, he sometimes is in a tough fight and has to fight his way through. Taking down Beneil Dariush will be very difficult. I can see how the dog is perfect to win. So with that being said, guys, the scrambling department is going to be absolutely insane for Beneil Dariush. Beneil Dariush versus Mateusz Gamrot was an absolute crazy fight. Beneil Dariush went all the way over there. You know, everybody's heavy on Gamrot. Everybody's expecting Gamrot to win. And Beneil Dariush hits him with a haymaker in round 1. Ends up dropping Gamrot. We know Gamrot got dropped like in his every single fight. But this was before we knew that. So with that being said, guys, I will say, with this being said, I'm low confidence. I'm going Renato Moicano. Very low confidence just because momentum is on his side. But if this guy is not able to take him down, we know Moicano is heavily favored. At a minus 220, I think anybody could win this fight. I think this fight should be an absolute pick'em. I'll go Renato Moicano to win this fight, but very low confidence. Insanely low confidence. Because this guy, Beneil Dariush, is going to be fighting for everything. He takes a lot of time off in between fights. And maybe activity is not on his side. And maybe the ring rust. You know, maybe there's ring rust. But I'm going to be taking Renato Moicano. Very low confidence. One of my lowest confident picks. I'll take him by KO or submission. He should be able to finish this fight inside the distance. If he's not, it's probably going to be a sloppy decision. Let's go. Yuri Prochazka versus Jamal Hill. Absolute banger fight. Another fight that screams violence. A month ago, Yuri Prochazka was a minus 130. Jamal Hill was a plus 110. Now, Yuri Prochazka is a minus 115. Jamal Hill is a minus 111. I like it when the odds are like that. A guy who eats punches for breakfast versus a crybaby. Here we go. Alex Pereira's sons. This is a banger fight, intense fight, a fight that will make you sweat, a fight that makes you go to the edge of your seat. Both of these guys are Poetan's sons. Jamal is very funny, said no one ever. Yuri, he's actually kind of funny sometimes. Yuri, former champion, unorthodox. My favorite KO from him was his KO over Volkan Oezdemir and the Reyes KO spinning elbow. All 30 of his wins are by KO, basically. This guy is be finished or finish. Always swings wild, but is a technician. When it comes to forcing his will, he gets hit with more strikes than he lands and sometimes needs to overwhelm his opponent. His second KO loss to Poetan with that head kick got him, with that head kick was an absolute brutal loss. And in my opinion, that's going to take some damage off your chin. There's only so much you can rely on your chin, only so long. He's matched up against another former champ. He never lost his belt. Tall, good at managing distance, Jamal Hill. Incredible striking, differential, 7-3. Very good body kick, accuracy, 73%. And he has correct me if I'm wrong, 73% takedown defense. Lost to Poetan at UFC 300 most recently. A lot of people hate Jamal, but Jamal is overlooked many times over and over. Just look at the Glover Teixeira fight. But I do think he is more technical than Yuri. This fight was inevitable in my opinion. These guys were going to fight eventually. Jamal might have a stronger chin. Yuri beat Glover with a 5th round sub. Only 30 seconds left. They both beat Glover Teixeira. And we know He also beat Rakic after losing the first round. Yuri eats punches for breakfast. Jamal is the logical pick, but Jamal is the underdog. Right now we know it's a pick'em. Skill for skill, Hill is probably better in a 3-round fight. I will say if this was 5 rounds, it would favor Yuri Prochazka by miles. But I'm going to be taking Jamal Hill. I'm not making an official pick flip yet. Maybe on Friday I will. Maybe after the scales. Maybe after the face-off. 6'3 to 6'4. 79-inch reach to 80. Yuri Prochazka is going to be going in, trying to eat punches and then deal his damage. I'll go Jamal Hill by unanimous decision. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I can't wait for that fight, bro. Umar Nurmagomedov versus Merab Dvalishvili. Umar versus Merab. Umar Nurmagomedov a minus 310. Merab Dvalishvili plus 230. Merab is what a company man looks like with a very tough matchup ahead of him. Very, very tough. Super tough matchup ahead of him. Merab defending his belt for the very first time. Recently destroyed O'Malley, averages 6 takedowns per 15 minutes. His last loss was in 2018 to Ricky Simon, where Simon was taken down 6 times and almost lost. Merab is a company man. He made a quick turnaround for this fight. Merab gets wobbled here and there sometimes, but is a cardio king, a cardio machine. This guy looks like he's on EPO. Shooting 50 takedowns against Peter Yan. Now taking on Umar Nurmagomedov. 6 fights in the UFC with 15 takedowns and 31 minutes of control time. 2 submission wins and 2 KOs. Uses his front kick very well. Very heavy kicks. Very, very, very unique style. Very unique arsenal. And then very heavy grappling chain wrestling. Khabib prodigy. We know Khabib's going to be in his corner. Would this guy get a title shot without his last name? Who cares? His most recent win was a main event win over Corey Sandhagen, where his striking looked excellent. Very high wrestlers. This will be a wrestling clinic. We see Khabib and Islam all hang out with DJ, and this is the perfect training camp for them. I think they've had one of the best training camps, and I think this is going to be a monumental moment in history for the Nurmagomedovs. Cardio will be a massive factor. Demetrius Johnson training with Umar will help massively. I expect heavy low kicks to be a factor. Merab needs to be able to check those kicks and put an overwhelming pace in order to win like he always does. But this matchup will be the most elite scrambling ever, just like Bashi and C-Rod. Umar is more than likely the better striker, but the cardio's on Merab. But Umar Nurmagomedov should be the pick. Khabib in his corner is almost too overpowered. I always say that, but I really do mean it. There's something about having Khabib in your corner that you feel like you're the best. You feel like you're unstoppable. You feel like nobody can beat you. And a guy like Merab seems like he's very mad. He comes from New York. I should be repping my boy Merab. He kissed O'Malley, destroyed O'Malley 3 months ago. But this is another Aljo Sean O'Malley situation. Aljo just beat Henry Cejudo, I believe. Has to make a quick turnaround against Sean O'Malley. Gets knocked out. Another quick turnaround for the champion. 3 months and 4 weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody gets finished in this fight. I think this fight's going to be absolutely amazing. But we all know that the bookies have this fight to go the distance. I think pick your poison. Either side, we know Merab is a massive dog. And a guy who is a champion. When you become champion, you get 20% better. So the fact that this guy's a massive underdog, come on. He has a good chance. He has a very good chance. It's just the last name that is, telling everybody to be aware. I will say, though, this is going to be an absolute banger fight. I'm going to be going Umar Nurmagomedov. I'll go by 48-47, 49-46, and 48-47 unanimous decision. I think he should be able to put the pace. And just look at that fight with Corey Sandhagen. There's a little bit of a blueprint to the takedown defense. But I think whoever shoots first is going to be able to maintain control. Then they're going to try to get right back up. The reversals, the scrambles are going to be a lot. And I think he's going to be able to stall out the time. Maybe the striking department, he'll be able to stay in there in rounds 1 or 2 and then get the grappling going. We know Umar always mixes it up. So he's not always grappling. He's not always striking. He mixes it up, mixed martial arts. But I will say this, a banger fight, a banger co-main event. I'm going to be going Umar Nurmagomedov. I'll go 48-47, 49-46, and 48-47. That's going to be an absolute banger fight. Let's go. Islam Makhachev versus Arman Tsarukyan. Islam Makhachev was a minus 340. Arman Tsarukyan was a plus 270. Now Islam Makhachev is a minus 410. Arman Tsarukyan is a plus 290. A rich guy in the most animalistic sport versus a guy who's been training ever since he was born for this. Who will prevail? This seems like we're in the movies, like we're in the Matrix, and we're watching one of the most craziest, most anticipated matchups in a rematch. The main event to UFC 311, a rematch of two of the most elite fighters in the entire lightweight division. A fight that is going to be going down in history. A fight that if Islam can defend his belt for this time, if he can successfully defend his belt, he will break Khabib Nurmagomedov's record. We know there's going to be an absolute banger fight, and I can't wait. I expect heavy low leg kicks to be a factor for anybody. We know Arman has a good arsenal and maybe more power than Islam, but Islam is a technician. Islam defending his belt in a rematch. The first and only time Islam has been taken down was in their first bout in Arman Tsarukyan's UFC debut. But we do know that, somebody corrected me, shout out to you, my guy. He said Thiago Moises actually took down Islam Makhachev, and this is why this is the newly updated predictions. So that fact is not accurate. So now, Islam, a dominant champion, fulfilling Khabib's legacy, been training with Khabib ever since he was a little kid. The most well-rounded fighter. Sorry for that, guys. I lost my train of thought. The most well-rounded fighter I've ever seen. Averages more than 3 takedowns per fight, but it's because he sticks on you like glue. I made a mistake choosing Dustin Poirier over Islam, but Islam in the cage, this guy is absolutely massive. You need to do less than a 24-hour rehydration clause if you want to beat Islam and if you want to get him vulnerable. He even said it in an interview recently. He said Volkanovski, the first fight, was one of his toughest fights because he had to fight so early and didn't have that much time to replenish. He cuts a shit ton of weight, taking on Arman Tsarukyan. Very good footwork, incredible wrestler, only person to ever take down Islam. That stat is not accurate. Throw it out the window. Forget that I said that. Very good kicks, has a beautiful axe kick. His most recent win is over Charlie Olives. He took him down, nullified all the submission attempts. This fight being a rematch makes things more tricky. Both of these fighters have gotten way better since their first fight. Arman was super young in their first fight, and it was his UFC debut. I think Arman is going to be defending relentless chain wrestling attempts, and we have seen Gamrot have some success with Arman Tsarukyan in the wrestling department. But that was a very close fight, and Arman could have won that fight. Islam said publicly his toughest fight was Volkanovski. The first fight, he destroyed him. The first fight, it was pretty competitive, and then he destroyed him in the rematch with a good adjustment. Islam is incredibly well at adjusting in between rounds and adjusting for rematches. We know this guy, Islam Makhachev, is an absolute beast. I think he can win by decision, but don't completely single out Arman Tsarukyan. He has a better chance than anyone that Islam has fought before. This will be Islam's toughest test. And people say that all the time. Oh, this is going to be Islam's toughest test. Oh, this is going to be Islam's toughest test. And then he ends up getting everything through. We know Dustin Poirier was able to defend, I think, like 9 takedowns or 16 takedowns. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Dustin Poirier had a lot of success, and I had it 2-2 going into the 5th. We know Dustin Poirier fell for that Darce. One of Islam's favorite submissions is a Darce. I was watching an interview with Aiden Ross. I know why. Like, what world are we in where I'm watching Islam Makhachev and Aiden Ross talk? I don't know. We're in the Matrix. But Islam Makhachev was mentioning how his favorite submission is the Darce. We know Arman Tsarukyan is saying he has a trick up his sleeve. He has something that Islam is not ready for, something that nobody's ready for, something that will definitely change the factor of the fight. And I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I think okay, this is what I think. I think it's his butterfly hooks. So when he's in full guard, he uses butterfly hooks in order to get right back up. And I think that the butterfly hooks from Arman Tsarukyan, the flexibility, he's one of the most flexible fighters that this guy's ever fought. And in wrestling, you have to be flexible. You have to be stretchy. and you have to be able to do a split at least, or maybe not be able to do a split, but be able to move your hips. You have to have good hips. We know Arman Tsarukyan has one of the best hips. Pause. We know Arman Tsarukyan is very flexible. This guy throws an axe kick. Like, this guy is very, very flexible for his entire like his arms, everything. He's very good. So I will say, I think that's what it is. I think that's what his secret is. But we don't know. He could just be bluffing. I will say, though, his flexibility will make a massive factor in this fight. The takedown defense and the scrambling department. We know he lost that first fight 30-27, but Islam is an absolute beast. So the fact that you're even losing by decision means that you're pretty good. I will say, though, Arman Tsarukyan made that fight competitive from the first round to the third round. Arman Tsarukyan is going to have way better takedown defense, and I think a majority of this fight is going to be on the feet. We know Islam needs one takedown, and then he controls you for the entire round. But we saw Dustin Poirier have a lot of success with the switch. When he does this switch, when Islam's on his back, and he switched, and he kept on doing this switch, or he kept on doing this thing where he would spin out. And it's not the most technical technique to get out of the takedown, but we know Islam was able to capitalize off of that like little spin in the fifth round. Dustin Poirier kept on doing that to get out of the takedowns. And Islam, his amazing ability to adjust, he adjusted to that, grabbed the leg, swung him over, and put him in a darce. They're going to be both adjusting. Every time they're going to be adjusting, trying to capitalize on each other. Cardio is going to be a massive factor. Leg kicks are going to be a massive factor. Flexibility is going to be a massive factor. The wrestling department is going to be a massive factor. And the striking department is going to be an even massive factor. Every fight starts on the feet. I believe Islam might be able to push this fight to go to split decision. And I know that sounds crazy. I think Arman might be able to push this fight to go to split decision. I think he can definitely win 2 rounds out of the 3. But I will say there's going to be a very competitive fight. There's going to be a very competitive round where it's going to be questionable. It's going to be so close where it's going to be questionable, and I think it's all going to depend on that specific round. And I think this fight's going to go the distance. I'm expecting this fight to go the distance more than the co-main, but we could say the co-main is more likely to go the distance than the main event. I will say majority Tapology is favoring a submission from Makhachev. If you're going Arman Tsarukyan, that KO is his power. When we're looking at the pros and cons, Arman Tsarukyan, power, flexibility. Islam, technician, wrestling, sticks to you like glue. This is going to be an absolute barn burner. 28 years old versus 33. If there's a time to get the champ, if there's a time to get the belt, if there's a time to take the belt from the champ, from the dominant champion in the lightweight division, it's now. Arman Tsarukyan, what are you going to do? Are you going to put everything in the cage like if this is your last fight? Or are you content with losing by unanimous decision? A guy like Dustin Poirier put everything into his last fight. We know Islam and Dustin Poirier Arman and Dustin Poirier have trained, and I believe we've seen them in the American Top Team before together. I will say, with that being said, guys, I'm going to be going Islam Makhachev. Maybe I might do a pick flip and pick Arman Tsarukyan. I will say, guys, you guys know me. If you guys saw the first time, guys, if you guys saw the first super early prediction video, guys, I've never picked against Islam Makhachev ever. I've never picked him to win. Obviously, on the channel. But obviously, when he fought Drew Dober and you fought all those guys, against Thiago Moises, I picked them. But against Dan Hooker, Bobby Green, Charles Oliveira, Alexander Volkanovski, and Dustin Poirier, I've never picked them on this channel. So this is my first time picking Islam Makhachev. And you guys can throw jokes in there. You're picking him the first time, he's going to lose the first time. It's MMA, let's go. Let me know what you guys think, guys. I'm going to be taking Islam Makhachev, and I'll take him by split decision. 48-47 split. 48-47 split for Arman Tsarukyan. And for the winner by split decision, 48-47 Islam Makhachev to win this fight. 3 rounds out of the 5. Let's go. Let me know what you guys think, guys. And let me know if you guys are excited for UFC 311. It's going to be an absolute banger fight. Obviously, it's a fights on top of fights on top of fights. And I like how they were able to save Bogdan Guskov on the card. You know, another fight, more fun. Let's go, guys. Let me know if you guys are ready for the 6 best bets in the lock of the week. Let's get it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Let's get it. Peace.